Understanding your mental health begins with paying close attention to your emotional patterns. Emotions are signals generated by the brain to help you respond to situations, relationships, and challenges in your environment. They provide important information about how your nervous system is interpreting what is happening around you. Instead of seeing emotions as random feelings that appear without reason, it is more accurate to view them as messages about your internal state and how your brain is processing experiences. Many people try to judge their mental health based on how they feel in a single moment. If they feel happy one day, they assume everything is fine. If they feel stressed or sad on another day, they may worry that something is wrong. However, mental health is better understood by observing patterns over time rather than focusing on isolated emotional experiences. Everyone experiences difficult emotions occasionally. Stress before an important event, sadness after a disappointment, or frustration during a challenge are all normal responses that the brain uses to adapt to life. What becomes more meaningful is how frequently certain emotions appear and how long they last. If someone notices that anxiety shows up almost every day, or that sadness remains present for long periods without relief, it may indicate that the brain's emotional regulation systems are under strain. These repeated patterns suggest that the nervous system may be having difficulty returning to a balanced state after stress. Another useful aspect of observing emotional patterns is noticing the intensity of feelings. Some emotions pass through the mind briefly and fade naturally, while others feel overwhelming and difficult to manage. When emotions consistently feel too strong or difficult to control, it may reflect increased activity in brain circuits related to threat detection and stress responses. These circuits are designed to protect you from danger, but when they stay active for long periods, they can create persistent feelings of worry, tension, or irritability. Emotional awareness also involves recognizing how emotions influence behavior and thinking. For example, someone experiencing prolonged stress might begin reacting more quickly to small problems or feeling irritated by situations that normally would not bother them. Others might notice that sadness leads to withdrawal from social interaction or loss of interest in activities they once enjoyed. These behavioral shifts provide additional clues about how emotional states are affecting daily life. Tracking emotional patterns can also help identify triggers. Certain environments, responsibilities, or interactions may repeatedly lead to specific emotional reactions. When these connections become clear, it becomes easier to understand what situations place the greatest demands on the nervous system. This awareness allows individuals to respond more thoughtfully rather than feeling confused by sudden mood changes. Developing this level of awareness requires a small shift in attention. Instead of immediately reacting to emotions, it helps to briefly observe them. Noticing what you are feeling when it appears and how long it stays creates a clearer picture of how your mental system is functioning. Over time, this practice allows the brain to recognize recurring emotional cycles and understand what may be influencing them. Emotional patterns also change depending on sleep, stress levels, social support, and daily habits. When the brain receives proper rest and supportive routines, emotions tend to stabilize and become easier to regulate. When these conditions are disrupted, emotional signals may become more intense or unpredictable, revealing how sensitive the mind is to changes in lifestyle and environment. Sleep is one of the most important biological processes for maintaining mental health. The brain relies on sleep to restore its internal balance, regulate emotional circuits, and process the experiences of the day. When sleep is consistent and restorative, the brain is better able to manage stress, control emotional reactions, and maintain clear thinking. Because of this close relationship, sleep quality often provides one of the most accurate signals about the current state of a person's mental health. During sleep, several critical processes take place inside the brain. Neural circuits that were highly active during the day begin to reset, allowing the brain to release built-up stress chemicals and restore normal levels of neurotransmitters that regulate mood and motivation. At the same time, the brain processes emotional experiences by integrating them into memory. This process helps reduce the emotional intensity of difficult events so they can be remembered without triggering the same level of stress the next day. When sleep becomes disrupted, these restorative processes cannot function properly. The brain may carry unresolved emotional signals into the next day, making it more sensitive to stress and more reactive to challenges. This is why people often notice that after a poor night of sleep, small problems feel much more overwhelming than they normally would. The brain's emotional regulation system simply has not had enough time to reset. Another important aspect of sleep is its influence on the brain regions responsible for emotional control. The prefrontal cortex, which helps regulate decision-making and impulse control, becomes less effective when sleep is limited. At the same time, the amygdala, a brain structure involved in detecting threats and generating emotional responses, becomes more reactive. This imbalance can lead to stronger emotional reactions, increased anxiety, and difficulty maintaining calm thinking. Monitoring sleep quality, therefore, provides valuable insight into mental health. Difficulty falling asleep can suggest that the brain remains in a heightened state of alertness, often due to ongoing stress or excessive mental stimulation late in the day. Waking up frequently during the night may indicate that the nervous system is struggling to maintain deep, restorative sleep cycles. Some people also experience early morning awakenings where they cannot return to sleep, which may be connected to elevated stress hormones. Even when someone sleeps for a full number of hours, the quality of that sleep matters. If a person wakes up feeling exhausted, mentally foggy, or emotionally drained, it may mean that the brain did not move through the full range of sleep stages required for proper recovery. These stages include deep sleep, which restores physical energy, and rapid eye movement sleep, which helps process emotions and memories. Changes in sleep patterns can also reflect shifts in mood and mental stability. During periods of anxiety or stress, people often experience restless or fragmented sleep. During periods of low mood or emotional fatigue, individuals may feel the urge to sleep excessively, yet still feel unrefreshed afterward. These changes provide useful signals that the brain's regulation systems may need attention. Observing sleep patterns over time allows a person to better understand how their mental state responds to daily life. When sleep becomes consistent and restorative, emotional balance and mental clarity often improve as well. By recognizing the connection between sleep and mental health, individuals gain a powerful indicator of how well their brain is managing stress, recovery, and emotional regulation. Energy and motivation are two powerful indicators of mental health because they reflect how effectively the brain is managing stress, recovery, and daily demands. The brain requires a large amount of energy to perform its basic functions, including thinking, emotional regulation, decision-making, and attention. When the mental system is balanced, people usually experience a steady level of energy that allows them to handle responsibilities, engage in conversations, and pursue activities that matter to them. It is normal for energy levels to rise and fall throughout the day. Most people feel more alert during certain hours and slightly more tired during others. These natural fluctuations are part of the body's internal rhythm, often guided by the circadian system that regulates sleep and wake cycles. However, when mental health becomes strained, these normal rhythms can begin to change in noticeable ways. One of the most common signs is persistent fatigue that does not improve even after rest. A person may wake up feeling unmotivated or mentally drained before the day has even begun. Tasks that once felt manageable may suddenly seem overwhelming or require much more effort than usual. This type of fatigue is often connected to prolonged stress, emotional overload, or burnout, where the brain has been operating under pressure for an extended period of time. Motivation also provides important information about mental well-being. Motivation is the brain's system for directing attention and energy toward goals or meaningful activities. When mental health is stable, people usually feel a natural sense of drive to complete tasks, solve problems, or participate in daily routines. This does not mean every activity feels exciting, but there is still a general sense of purpose that encourages action. When motivation declines significantly, it may signal that the brain's reward and effort systems are under strain. Activities that once felt enjoyable or rewarding may begin to feel empty or uninteresting. Even simple responsibilities, such as responding to messages or completing routine work, may require an unusual amount of mental effort. This shift can create frustration because the person may still want to be productive, but feels unable to generate the necessary drive. Mental fog is another experience often connected to low energy and reduced motivation. People may notice that concentrating on tasks becomes difficult, or that their thoughts feel slower and less organized than usual. Decision-making may also become harder because the brain struggles to evaluate options efficiently. These cognitive changes often occur when the brain is attempting to conserve energy during periods of stress or emotional exhaustion. Prolonged stress can contribute strongly to these changes. When the body remains in a constant state of alertness, stress hormones stay elevated for longer periods. While these hormones can help manage short-term challenges, they also consume mental and physical resources when they remain active too long. Over time, this can leave the brain feeling depleted, leading to reduced energy and motivation. Observing patterns in energy and motivation over several days or weeks can provide valuable insight into mental health. If someone notices that their energy consistently drops, their motivation remains low, or their focus becomes unreliable, these patterns may indicate that the brain is asking for recovery and balance. Recognizing these signals allows individuals to better understand how their mental system responds to workload, stress, and lifestyle habits. The way your mind processes thoughts can reveal a great deal about your mental health. Thoughts are not random events that appear without structure. They are the result of complex activity within the brain, involving systems responsible for attention, memory, emotional processing, and decision-making. When these systems are balanced and functioning well, thinking tends to feel flexible, clear, and relatively calm. When the brain is under stress or emotional strain, thought patterns often begin to change in noticeable ways. A healthy mental state usually allows thoughts to move freely between different perspectives. This flexibility helps people analyze situations, consider multiple possibilities, and adapt to challenges. For example, when something difficult happens, a balanced mind may feel disappointment, but still be able to think about solutions or future opportunities. The brain is able to process the event without becoming trapped in a single negative interpretation. When mental health is under pressure, thinking often becomes more repetitive or rigid. The brain may begin to cycle through the same concerns again and again, even when those thoughts are not helpful. This pattern is commonly associated with worry and rumination. Worry tends to focus on potential future problems, while rumination involves repeatedly thinking about past experiences or mistakes. Both patterns place heavy demands on the brain's attention system and can increase feelings of anxiety or emotional fatigue. Another sign that thought patterns may be affected by mental strain is an increase in self-critical thinking. The brain has natural systems for evaluating behavior and learning from mistakes, which is an important part of growth. However, when these systems become overly active, the mind may produce constant negative judgments about one's abilities, decisions, or personal worth. This can create a cycle where negative thoughts reinforce negative emotions, making it harder for the brain to return to a balanced state. Mental health can also influence how easily the brain shifts attention. In stable conditions, attention can move smoothly between tasks, conversations, and ideas. When someone experiences prolonged stress or emotional overload, attention may become stuck on certain thoughts. This can make it difficult to concentrate on work, follow conversations, or complete tasks because the brain continues returning to the same internal concerns. Thought speed is another useful indicator. Some people notice that during periods of stress or anxiety, their thoughts begin to move very quickly. Ideas may jump rapidly from one topic to another, making it difficult to focus or feel mentally calm. In other situations, especially during periods of emotional exhaustion or low mood, the opposite may occur. Thoughts may feel slower, and the mind may struggle to generate ideas or responses. Observing these patterns can help individuals better understand the current state of their mental system. Instead of judging thoughts as good or bad, it can be helpful to notice how often certain thinking styles appear and how strongly they influence daily life. When the mind frequently returns to worry, self-criticism, or repetitive analysis, it may signal that the brain is trying to process stress but has not yet found resolution. Recognizing these changes in thought patterns provides valuable insight because thinking is closely connected to emotional and physical states. When stress increases, the brain's threat detection circuits become more active, which naturally shapes how thoughts are generated and interpreted. By paying attention to these patterns over time, people gain a clearer understanding of how their mind responds to pressure, uncertainty, and recovery. Human beings are naturally wired for social connection. The brain has evolved to function in groups, relying on relationships for safety, cooperation, and emotional support. Because of this deep biological connection, the way a person interacts with others can reveal a great deal about their mental health. Social behavior often reflects the internal state of the nervous system, including how safe, stressed, or emotionally balanced someone feels. When mental health is stable, people usually maintain a certain level of interest in interacting with others. This does not mean someone needs to be constantly social or highly outgoing. Individuals have different personality styles, and some naturally prefer quiet environments or smaller groups. However, even people who enjoy solitude typically feel comfortable communicating with friends, family members, or colleagues when their mental state is balanced. Social interaction tends to feel manageable and sometimes even energizing. Changes in social behavior can often signal shifts in mental well-being. One of the most common patterns is social withdrawal. When the brain is experiencing prolonged stress, emotional fatigue, or low mood, it may begin to reduce the desire for interaction. Conversations can start to feel mentally demanding, and the person may avoid gatherings, ignore messages, or cancel plans. This withdrawal is often the brain's attempt to conserve energy during periods when emotional resources are low. Stress can also influence how comfortable someone feels during social interactions. When the nervous system is in a heightened state of alertness, the brain becomes more sensitive to potential threats or judgments from others. As a result, social situations may feel more intimidating or exhausting than usual. A person might worry about saying the wrong thing, being misunderstood, or being evaluated negatively. These concerns can make social interaction feel draining rather than supportive. Another important factor is the sense of connection someone experiences when interacting with others. Healthy mental states often allow people to feel present and engaged during conversations. They can listen, respond, and share thoughts without excessive effort. When mental health declines, however, individuals may begin to feel emotionally distant, even when they are physically around other people. Conversations might feel less meaningful, and the person may struggle to stay mentally involved. The quality of relationships also provides insight into mental well-being. Supportive relationships help regulate the nervous system by providing reassurance, empathy, and shared understanding. Positive interactions release neurochemicals such as oxytocin and dopamine, which help reduce stress and strengthen feelings of safety and belonging. When someone has access to these supportive connections, it becomes easier for the brain to recover from challenging experiences. In contrast, when someone consistently feels disconnected from others, the brain may interpret this as a form of social isolation. Research has shown that prolonged isolation can increase stress responses and affect emotional regulation. The brain begins to operate in a more defensive state, which can contribute to feelings of loneliness, sadness, or irritability. Observing patterns in social connection can therefore help people better understand their mental health. If someone notices that they are increasingly avoiding conversations, feeling disconnected from people they care about, or losing interest in social interaction altogether, these changes may reflect emotional strain or exhaustion. Social behavior is closely connected to emotional and cognitive processes, so shifts in social engagement often provide early signals about how the brain is managing stress, recovery, and overall psychological balance. The body often provides some of the earliest signals about mental health, even before a person consciously recognizes emotional or psychological changes. The brain and body are deeply connected through the nervous system, which constantly sends information back and forth between physical sensations and mental states. Because of this connection, prolonged stress, emotional strain, or mental fatigue frequently appear in the body as physical symptoms. One of the most common physical signals linked to mental health is muscle tension. When the brain detects stress or potential threat, it activates the body's stress response system. This response prepares the body for action by tightening muscles, increasing heart rate, and sharpening attention. In short bursts, this response can be helpful because it allows the body to react quickly to challenges. However, when stress becomes constant, the muscles may remain partially tense for long periods of time. Many people notice tightness in the shoulders, neck, or jaw without realizing it is connected to their mental state. Headaches are another common physical indicator. Tension headaches often occur when muscles around the scalp and neck remain contracted for extended periods. Mental pressure, worry, or emotional overload can gradually create this kind of muscle tension. Over time, these headaches may become more frequent if the nervous system continues to stay in a heightened state of alertness. Digestive discomfort can also reflect mental strain. The digestive system is strongly influenced by the nervous system, particularly through a network of nerves that connects the gut and the brain. When stress levels rise, the brain may shift energy away from digestion in order to support alertness and physical readiness. As a result, people may experience stomach discomfort, changes in appetite, or irregular digestion during periods of emotional stress. Restlessness is another physical signal that the nervous system may be struggling to settle. When the brain remains in a heightened state of activation, the body may feel unable to relax fully. Some individuals notice constant movement, fidgeting, or difficulty sitting still. Others experience a sense of internal agitation, where the body feels tense even when there is no immediate task or threat present. Fatigue can also appear as a physical reflection of mental strain. When the brain spends long periods managing stress, emotional regulation, and constant problem solving, it consumes significant amounts of energy. Over time, this can leave the body feeling drained even if physical activity has been minimal. This type of fatigue often feels different from normal tiredness because rest alone does not immediately restore energy levels. Breathing patterns may also change during periods of stress or anxiety. Some people begin breathing more quickly or more shallowly without noticing it. Shallow breathing can limit oxygen exchange and increase feelings of tension or unease. These subtle shifts in breathing patterns show how closely the body reacts to the brain's interpretation of stress. Becoming aware of these physical signals can provide valuable insight into mental health. The body often reacts before the mind fully recognizes that something is wrong. By noticing recurring sensations such as muscle tension, headaches, digestive discomfort, restlessness, or unusual fatigue, individuals gain additional information about how their nervous system is functioning. Observing these bodily signals over time helps create a clearer picture of how mental stress affects the entire system. Instead of ignoring or dismissing these sensations, recognizing them as messages from the body allows a person to better understand how their mental and physical states are interacting. Understanding and assessing your mental health is not about labeling yourself with a specific condition or trying to reach a constant state of happiness. Instead, it is about learning how to observe the signals your brain and body produce every day. Your emotions, sleep patterns, energy levels, thoughts, social behavior, and physical sensations all work together to reflect how well your nervous system is functioning. When these areas are balanced, the mind usually feels flexible, focused, and capable of handling daily challenges. Mental health naturally shifts as life changes. Stressful situations, heavy workloads, lack of sleep, or emotional difficulties can temporarily disrupt the balance of the brain. What matters most is recognizing these signals early and understanding what they might be communicating. When you become more aware of your patterns, it becomes easier to respond with healthier habits, supportive relationships, and proper recovery. This awareness creates a stronger connection between your mind and your actions. Instead of feeling confused by changes in mood or motivation, you begin to understand how different aspects of your life influence your mental state. Over time, this understanding helps you build resilience, improve emotional regulation, and maintain a more stable and supportive environment for your brain and overall well-being.